Good day. Thank you for joining our webinar, Why Your Meetings May Not Be Working for You. I'm Christy Anderson with the Webex marketing team, and I'll be kicking off our webinar today. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to our speakers. Shilpi, take it away.
Thank you, Christy. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to this very exciting webinar that's all about choosing the right meeting solution that enables new ways of working. We're so excited to have you all here. Thank you for joining. My name is Shilpi Sneha. I lead the product marketing for Webex Meetings here at Webex. I have with me my colleague, Phil Polishuk, who leads product management for Webex Meetings. I'm trying to go to the next slide. So Christy, if you can pass on the presenter access to me, thank you. So I hope you're all very excited to learn more about SMB research highlights and insights from one of the leading market intelligence firm IDC and about innovations happening at Webex. We will kick off with some of the trends shaping the meetings landscape, share evaluation criteria for meeting solution as recommended by IDC, and then finally give you a peek into what's happening at Webex. So let's get started. So recently, as I mentioned, we worked with IDC to kind of better assess and get an informed sense of what's been going on in the meeting landscape pertaining to small, medium-sized businesses. The intention there was that we better understand some customer expectations and challenges that we are currently solving, but also things that we could potentially continue to address in the future. And also the intention was to share the insights with you all in terms of the considerations and that businesses like yours can think about when considering, leveraging video conferencing solutions that can bring more efficiency in how you collaborate. So why is this important? It's important because we know that meetings are where business happens, right? It's beyond just information sharing. We socialize ideas, we brainstorm, we build relationships, and it's important how we show up, whether it's our clients or our own teammates. How we show up in the meetings is important. So now previously, if you think of that, used to mean likely sitting in a room together or occasionally conferencing with a small group of remote workers. Now we are seeing that video has become this new voice of the employees. It allows employees to work from anywhere and to have access to new types of opportunities that were previously beyond reach. So with this options now open to employees to have this kind of flexibility and the expanded pool of opportunities, many employees are now considering working remotely or going hybrid, meaning up to 2 to 3 days a week, say. And most companies are being supportive of it. Naturally, it's not a surprising stat that we had received from, it's called the Rise of the Hybrid Workplace research, which states that 98% believe future meetings will include remote participants. So keeping the scenario in mind, I think it's important that people have a positive experience, right? So what really contributes to that? What impacts the productivity and happiness of the employees? Turns out, according to employee engagement survey conducted last year, 71% of people feel that the tools they use for their day-to-day work contribute positively to their overall work experience. And it's undeniable that video and web conferencing tools are one of the most common work tools, so it's essential to get it right. Because every minute spent on an unproductive or poorly functioning meeting kind of cuts down on how much we could have achieved. So we were also curious about what are those tools that entrepreneurs and SMB leaders are prioritizing. And so we gained that insight from the IDC research, which we will share shortly. But before we do that, we would love to hear from you what the investment priorities for your business this year are. So let's take a quick poll. Please rank it in the order of the priority in the poll that you will see on the right-hand side of your Webex screen. I see that video conferencing tools is still on the top, followed by team collaboration. Oop, we had some changes, but video conferencing tool is still running on the top. All right, this poll, again, thank you again for taking this poll, and we will keep this poll open until the next one. But let me share something with you. This is the exact question that IDC used in their survey that was conducted for SMB leaders worldwide in February this year. And this is the results we have from the survey. So as you can see, more than 50% are prioritizing mobile work support and video conferencing tools. So we do have quite a similar response on the video conferencing tool side of the things, and this tells us something, right? Clearly, it's top of mind for you all and most of the SMB leaders. But one thing to call out is what really IDC thinks is the driving force behind it, right? They believe that many companies of all sizes reacted to kind of the pandemic by provisioning video collaboration tools and services very quickly, right? To rapidly kind of support that shift in the distributed workforce that they saw as soon as they could. Some had to implement the change in a week, and some implemented it overnight as well. So many of those companies are now re-evaluating those tools and services, and that's the reason why it's been seen as one of the top areas of investments. And we are glad that you're here because we are going to share the evaluation criteria and recommendations for the optimization strategies from IDC that you could consider in the process of re-evaluating your video conferencing tools to kind of support the mobile and remote workers. So we'll also share how the new Webex enables this new way of working in this changing world and is very different from the Webex you may have come to know in the past. So as I mentioned previously, we worked with IDC to build a buyer's guide for SMB that draws on the recent research they conducted where they surveyed the SMB leaders. Based on those insights, they shared some of key evaluation criteria that they recommend SMBs to consider when they evaluate a video conferencing solution. So let's check it out. Now, these are the 5 key criteria they mentioned. Let me quickly walk you through each of these. They did quote that ease of use is still the #1 requirement for popular and successful video platforms today. So vendors have they say that vendors have paid attention to this demand over the past years, and while solutions have evolved, many times the interface experience gets compromised as more features are bolted on. But if it's easy to act, it is less likely that participants would get frustrated when they're using the solution. So being able to do basic things most efficiently and not having to use things like API and third-party services for basic functions, everything from scheduling, joining the meeting securely, content sharing, and all kinds of real-time interactions. It's all important because it does add up. The next thing they call out is the flexible work environment that everyone is aspiring for, right? It will be more accessible if the solution is leveraging technologies like machine learning, AI, and speech related technologies, because we can be there for all the meetings or know all languages. And there's so much scope for scaling the knowledge and saving time on things like taking and sharing notes or reading the room better by knowing more about the speaker. So IDC believes that the ability of a video conferencing tool to kind of deliver on these things contributes to increased worker productivity, which is an important consideration. And on a related note, if you look at the third piece here, the definition of work environment is expanding, right? Which is great, but it's also introducing unpredictability. So having capabilities that could take care of minimizing disruptions, making collaboration frictionless, regardless of the work environment that we are in, is also noted by IDC as a key criteria. Next up listed here, as you can see, is the management aspect. Whether companies have outsourced their IT or have a lean IT team in-house, there's already a lot going on the technology stack. So more consolidation, the better, and ease of management from one place is important when it comes to managing meeting accounts, is what they call out. Finally, more sophistication in any solution opens new vulnerabilities, especially when you think of work from anywhere scenarios, right? Work device, personal device, working from public places, joining your company meetings, but also joining meetings hosted by your partner, vendor, or client. Not surprisingly, like there has been an increase in security threats coming from the bad actors. And that's the reason I guess IDC have put this down as one of the top 5 evaluation criteria. Now, In addition to these criteria that we just talked about, they were, as you can see, very end user focused. IDC also has recommendation for businesses on things to consider in the evaluation process for choosing a video conferencing solution. For example, a solution that requires minimum training and education, right? It should provide a broad range of video conferencing technologies under one roof to kind of avoid implementation headaches down the line. Something that offers service level agreement for the video conferencing quality of service, right? Something that supports all the common key apps and business processes to support the workflow of all the employees. We just talked about security, so they do mention like the required level of security for the SMBs, including things like end-to-end security for video, audio, and data encryption. And all these capabilities that we just talked about, if it's being offered through an easy to use single portal for customers, so it's easier to kind of administer, manage, or monitor basic analytics around meetings. And finally, they kind of highlight things like having the customer references, access to those, access to free trials, and a clear pricing and explanation for how that will change as they grow. Lastly, they call out a solution that scales to add video features and functionality as the business grows, and that should be an easy lift, ideally, for SMBs looking to move up the technology stack. So moving on, now we just talked about a lot of considerations, right? These are good set of considerations which can serve as a guide to sort of anchor the evaluation and decision-making process around it. But what follows thereafter is, how do we make the most of this video conferencing solution, right? Again, what IDC highlighted was the solution ideally should help advance strategic imperatives. By that, they're referring to things like expanding customer base, retaining the best one, hiring the right people, right? Building new products faster with faster time to market. Things like accessing new channels, new markets, right? Growing the partnerships is also key for SMBs. So bringing more efficiency in the ecosystem of agencies and vendors that you all work with. So if you look closely at all these areas of optimization listed here, you can see how collaboration plays a role, right? Looks like let's say from internal collaboration to customer meetings, right? Conducting virtual interviews, working with external stakeholders, all of that contributes to this. So effective communication is kind of, if you look at it, is at the core of it, being able to meet those strategic imperatives. So these were the insights we had gathered from IDC, and I hope you found it useful. Moving on, for the remainder of the session, we will walk you through how Webex is enabling remote and hybrid work experiences. So let's get to it. I would like to first start by calling out how Cisco as an organization has always been a big advocate of flexible work style for their employees. And we have been enabling remote work for all of us, the employees and other organizations, way before pandemic hit us, after which, of course, remote work started to get widely adopted. Now, back then, the enabler was Webex, and it is, but with a pleasant twist, right? We have an all new version of it as we kind of fast track the innovation during pandemic and build on the strong foundation that we already had. And that's exactly what has brought us here where we are today, to be able to enable all types of workers to do their work flexibly and being able to move the needle for their business. Because when collaboration is efficient, the impact on all parts of the business is highly visible. And interestingly, collaboration does happen in different shapes and forms. So to maintain that continuity of collaboration, sometimes real-time sync is necessary. Things like connecting via call or chat messages that brings in more flexibility. And to ensure you have the access to that option and all within the same app, we have the Webex app where people can video meet, call, or message through the same app. So Webex Meetings is our solution as part of that app for collaboration and improving productivity in organizations. And we have built this keeping in mind business of all sizes, but we're continually bringing in features that addresses new and emerging use cases of SMBs, without losing sight of the fact that we have got to keep it easy to use. A lot of our SMB customers today are able to drive different outcomes by leveraging our meeting solution. And then based on what we are hearing, we have grouped some of those capabilities of Webex meetings under those key business outcomes that we gathered and how they are using our solution today. So get excited because Phil is going to share those with you so you can closely experience the power of Webex. Over to you, Phil.
Thank you, Shilpi. Really appreciate that. As you said, we've got Webex is working for a long time on video conferencing and video collaboration. Obviously, we've done a lot of work recently. There's a ton of features within the product. I'm going to quickly go through some here. I'll do it fairly quickly. So if you have questions about a specific feature, feel free to put it into Q&A, and we can answer that at the same time. And we'll be using our own tools, using Slido to handle that at the same time. So you can see it's sort of real-time collaboration where you can hear me speak and talk about the features, as well as having a separate conversation, dig in more detail. Can you give me, pass me the presenter, please, Shilpi?
I just pass it over to you, Phil. Let me know if it works.
Yeah, thank you. And so, as Shilpi said, what we're trying to do is we want to be able to foster collaboration regardless of where it happens. Every business is different and everybody's needs are different. And so we are facilitating it to meet your needs, whether you're working from home, whether you need to work remotely, whether you need to work in a conference room, in an office. We're supporting all of those needs. And also building asynchronous tools as well as synchronous, so meaning either in real time within a meeting or to continue the work outside of a meeting through our messaging and asynchronous tools. So one of the first things we need is audio quality. And this may sound sort of nuts and bolts, but it really is important, especially given those different environments you may be working in, whether you're working in a coffee shop or a home office where you've got kids screaming or the lawnmower going off in the background. We've spent a lot of time and effort and investment on audio quality. And so at a baseline, we have background noise removal, which will remove all of those unneeded noises. Again, if you've got a leaf blower outside or you've got a baby screaming behind you, we eliminate all that noise. But then we've also got a couple of options to emphasize where you happen to be working. So for example, there's an option called Optimize for My Voice. So let's say I'm in a Starbucks or a coffee shop, and I just want you to focus on my voice. Optimize for My Voice will eliminate all of the voices behind me and just focus on mine. And then let's say you move into a conference room where you've got multiple people and you want everyone to be heard equally as well, even though they may not be as close to the microphone. There's an option for Optimize for All Voices. And so then it detects all the voices in a room and allows each of them to participate equally. One of the other themes that we're working with Webex is just around the idea of inclusivity in all respects. Inclusivity regardless of where you're working and who you are, whether that's an accessibility issue or anything else. We want everyone to be on an equal footing when it comes to the meeting or the collaboration. So another innovation we're looking at is how do we make a presentation or interaction within a meeting more engaging? And so you imagine you're in a conference room and you've got somebody who's there presenting some information. They're right there. You can see the person's facial expressions and their gestures, in addition to the content. And some of that can be lost in a video conference. So we've given you what we're calling immersive share, is the ability to put the presenter directly on top of the content. And you can then be able to see and hear their intonations around that content in addition to the slides for, again, a more immersive experience. Another way we're doing that is the ability to customize your layouts during presentations. And so, or in a meeting in general, and this is both for hosts as well as for participants. So be able to take content and individuals and drag them onto your stage and move that stage around so you can see it as you want to see it. And so let's say there are particular people in the room, you want to see their reaction to the content and see how they're accepting it. If you were together, you might be able to see those facial expressions in their body language. Now we're able to move that content to the stage so you can focus on what's important for you in the meeting. The host also has the ability to set a stage for everybody in that meeting. And so if there's a particular way they want the content to be seen and different people to be seen, they can set the stage for all the participants and lock it so that the participants can't change it if they want. Again, we give the flexibility both ways. We've worked a lot on the technology around the different types of sharing methods there are, whether you're sharing a file, whether you want to share an application, whether it's Excel or PowerPoint, or you're sharing a browser window, and maybe you're sharing a video. We're optimizing for all of those types. One, to be able to easily select it in terms of all the different things you may have open on your desktop, but then also when you choose something that we will automatically optimize for that type of content. And just overall, as we said, with the audio quality, video quality is utmost importance, and so we spend a lot of effort on making sure that we've got the logic such that regardless of the bandwidth you have, either through your ISP or Wi-Fi, and that your CPU usage, that we're optimizing for making the video output as great as possible. And then part of, it's one thing to talk about the quality of the meeting itself, but how quickly can people get into your meeting and how easy is that? And so with the Webex app, we have easy notifications that pop up from the taskbar that say, hey, your meeting started, one click and you're in a meeting. You also have the ability to, before you join the meeting, I want to adjust my audio and video, make sure that looks right. Do I want to add a virtual background? We have static as well as animated virtual backgrounds that come standard as part of Webex. You also have the ability to choose your own and upload your own virtual background. So you can customize that experience to suit your needs. So we're going to do a quick poll here to say, thinking of some of these features I just talked about, which ones might you be most excited to use? Looks like sharing files is in the lead. Customized layout there too. Great. All right, I'm going to move on to the next section about empowering your best work. And this gets into a little bit of what I mentioned, the sort of asynchronous capabilities. So even outside of a meeting, how do we continue on that question? Because not all work happens in meetings, right? And in many ways, we'd like to eliminate some meetings we don't need. And so part of the Webex app has messaging and calling functionality, so that outside of the meeting, you can continue that conversation. You can follow up on action items. You can embed files and have conversations continuing on from where you were. Again, this all happens within the single Webex application. Also, we've got technology around being able to allow you to focus in the meeting, but still being able to take notes and action items through the Webex assistant. So think sort of Alexa or Siri for Webex, being able to capture the notes in the meeting and be able to capture those action items so that you can follow up afterwards and make sure that you continue to be productive. The other piece is around is the meeting recordings and transcriptions. So there are times when you can't make a meeting. you're double booked, or you've got some other conflict. How can I catch up easily? So it's not just a question of recording that meeting, but is there a way for me to take that 60-minute meeting and chop out to the piece of the 10 minutes I need for that particular topic? And so within our recordings, a few things: the ability to kind of speed up the playback speed so you can do it faster. Also the ability to for there to be chapters in terms of the type of content that's there. Also the ability to follow a particular person in that meeting. So let's say that Shilpi's the person that I'm most interested in what her comments were about a particular topic. I can go into the recording and just focus on her as a participant. So many ways to be able to catch up on a meeting if you weren't able to attend. And then the other piece is, okay, we've gotten people together, we can hear them, we can see them. How do we foster that collaboration? How do we now get people who aren't necessarily in the same room in front of that whiteboard in that conference room? How do we facilitate that collaboration? And so we've built our sort of next generation of digital whiteboard that allows participants wherever they are in whatever type of device that they're on to collaborate equally. And whether that's just drawing a simple flow chart, adding images, sticky notes, whatever it may be, you can do that again from whatever device you're on and whatever location, and be able to share that within the meeting and collaborate. And again, that will then be saved into that team space for a meeting, so that you can then continue to review that and refine that offline outside of the meeting. So, and this is really talking about our Slido integration. So Slido is a company we acquired last year and is now integrated into Webex. And so that's what we're using here. And so it really does take that level of sort of input and collaboration to a next level. And especially in terms of a couple of key benefits here is it allows everyone to participate equally. Again, regardless of who you are and regardless of whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or what your opinion may be, you can vote and input into the conversation. And then you can also do it, again, you do it in parallel. You can have that conversation about, here's our new design that we're trying to vote on, and here's a couple different options. At the same time, you can ask people to say, what do you think about this? Which one would you prioritize? So it just allows for a more efficient and more productive and more inclusive collaboration. The other part is sometimes you've got a meeting that's maybe a little bit larger, or you need to break it up into smaller groups, allow those people to really interact and get into the details of an issue. So we created breakout sessions to allow you to split that meeting from a main session into separate breakout sessions and allow those teams to talk and collaborate, and then be able to come back to a main session to report back on what they had done. So there's multiple different ways for you to break up the groups, allow people to come back, to switch from session to session or not, depending on what your needs are. And then the other piece is, like we did with our whiteboarding tool, sometimes there are other tools you need to help you collaborate that are specific to what you want to do. And we at Webex know that we don't own all the tools that people might use. So we've created this idea of embedded applications, which are third-party apps that you can use within the Webex meeting to foster that collaboration. And so normally what you would have to do in the past is, if you wanted to open up Miro, you'd have to open it up separately and share it within the meeting, but you couldn't really collaborate together, and it was separate from the overall meeting experience. Here we've integrated into the meeting experience to make it seamless and allow that that sort of multitasking to be much more efficient. And again, you see how we've done it with Slido. We do it with close to 100 other now third-party apps. And part of it also is helping make the conversations within a meeting more efficient. And there's nothing worse than sort of people interrupting a conversation to give a comment or something that maybe they could have done non-verbally. And so the ability to give feedback either through gestures. We have gesture recognition and say, okay, yeah, this looks great, or to use our reactions to tell the presenter, hey, this is great, or I don't like this, or again, speed up or slow down without having to necessarily interrupt the conversation. So we'll touch on this now, and then also a little bit later is just touch on security. Security is a big element for many of our customers, and so one of the things we want to make sure is that the right people who right people are in the meeting who should be in the meeting. And so one of the things we've done is for there's a lobby you can enable for people to go to before they enter the meeting. And then you can see within that lobby who's joined. Are these internal people? Are these external? Are these people who I don't know who they are? They haven't signed in. It allows me to look at them and see, okay, this is the person I want to admit versus maybe somebody I'm not sure who it is. I'm not going to admit them to my meeting. So gives the host that ability to really manage securely who's in that meeting, who's not. And then another piece is there's a lot of data around who's joined meetings, when do they join meetings, what do they do here, and so we're giving a couple different layers of analytics around this so people can understand what's happening and understand what how Webex is being used. So we call those personal insights. So you can both at a team level and individual level, you can look at, hey, how many meetings have I scheduled? Am I scheduling these meetings at times that meet the time zones for the people I'm meeting with? But also, how often am I late to my meetings? Do I need to do a better job at showing up on time? We provide all those insights for you to see what's happening within Webex. So another poll, the features we just talked about, which ones are you most excited to use? All right. Recording and transcriptions are the lead right now. Okay, that's great. I'm fully behind that one. All right, so I'm going to now turn it over to Shilpi. She's going to talk about the topic of be anywhere, reach anyone.
Thank you, Phil. I was smiling when you made the meetings and recordings reference earlier, and now looking at the poll, because especially in meetings with you, you drop a lot of golden nuggets, and I love going back to transcripts and making sure that I'm not taking notes, focusing on asking you the questions, and refer to transcripts later. I also like playing recording on my mobile phone with my headphones on while I'm cooking, just in case there are folks out there doing the same and enjoying that feature that way. So speaking about mobile phones, let's look at how our worlds have changed and how Webex can be our best friend, given all the mobility that we look for now, and it's all available at the tip of the finger through the mobile app. Let me see. Thank you for passing the presenter access, Phil. Yes, here we are. So so I want to walk you through a scenario, right? Like what are we, when we look at the current employee experience across the board, what we're saying is, let's walk you through a scenario, right? When you start your day, you want to understand what your schedule looks like and when your first meeting is. In the Webex Meetings mobile app, what you can do is you can go to My Meeting screen and you can take a quick look at all the meetings, who is the host, so a quick preview, right? And then let's say you might want to take a couple of meetings in the morning from your home office desktop. And whenever you're ready to go to office to beat the traffic at the time that's suitable for you, you can easily move your meeting from the laptop to mobile app without any echo or disruption. Because what you can do is you can simply take your mobile camera, scan the QR code, and click on the join meeting link on the camera. So your meeting is now moved to your mobile app and you are ready to go, right? So you don't have to worry about missing anything from the meeting or disrupting the meeting itself while you're on the move. So that's one of the common scenario that we are seeing a lot. Another thing is like now let's assume that you have moved the meeting to your mobile app and you're ready for your office commute. You can easily and I think most importantly safely continue your meeting in audio only mode from your car, right? If you have kids in the car, you don't have to sweat about making them making noise, since we have background noise removal that Phil was alluding to earlier, and you could optimize for my voice features. That's integrated as well in our mobile app, so you still enjoy that same best meeting experience on your phone from your car as well. We have an integration with Ford, so I wanted to call that out, and soon to come is support for Apple CarPlay as well. I'm sharing this because we just to highlight like all the efforts that our teams are making to make sure to give you all the options to make it kind of easy for you to adapt to whatever work style you have. So speaking about work style, right? If you use iPads a lot, you can now use it as a complete workstation, because we have now picture in picture, which what it does is it enables multitasking. You can pop it back on the home screen, and while you're collaborating in real time, you can be more productive because you can, let's say, look at the active speaker, the content they're sharing, and get work done side by side. For example, pulling up the email app or the managing the calendar appointment or making some changes while you are looking at the active speaker content. So this is very, very helpful if you work a lot on iPads. Similarly, just a week ago, we actually launched Webex Meetings PWA on Chrome OS. So if you are a Chromebook user, you can now install it on your Chromebook like any desktop app, so as a local application, right? And you can quickly join meetings with just one click, because it will be available from the launcher or the shelf without opening the browser in the Chromebook and entering the meeting URL, which previously was the only way to do it for Chromebook users. But now with this option, you have both the options, and it just makes joining experience much more easier. So as you can see, there are different means and ways in which we are trying to make the work experience extremely flexible. So for the last section, I'm going to hand it over back to Phil. Let me pass the presenter access to you, Phil. There you are.
Thank you, Shilpi. And this is so I'm going to get into a little bit of the sort of nuts and bolts behind the scenes. So as a whether you're managing this WebEx or IT yourself, or whether you have an IT manager, WebEx has a feature called Control Hub, which is a single pane of glass that helps you manage your WebEx solution. And it does a couple of things. One is it's easy to onboard and manage your users. And so whether you're using Active Directory or whether you just have individuals that you want to input, it's very easy to get people up and running within Control Hub. The other thing that it does, it's also a single pane of glass in terms of meeting analytics, so that you can, similar to like personal insights within the WebEx app for the individual users, at an IT or an admin level, you can see, okay, who's using WebEx, how are they using WebEx, how's the performance going, how long are their meetings, a whole host of analytics around the usage. So it gives you as the administrator sort of full visibility and control over how WebEx is going to be implemented. And then back to the topic of security. We take this very, very seriously, and so we talked a little bit about how we're making sure that the right people get into the meetings, but underneath the hood, how do we manage everything else? We see it in sort of 4 broad categories here, but it's really sort of by default in terms of how it's built into WebEx. So we're making sure we're securing your content, and so your data is private, using data loss prevention technologies, end-to-end encryption and malware protection to protect your content. Regulatory compliance. If there are third-party certifications handling data sovereignty, legal requirements, that's all done. Also managing the end user trust, making sure that we verify identities. We can use again, Active Directory or authentication tools to make sure that the right users are providing access. And then on all this on top of Cisco's overall security platform, in terms of again your ability to purchase as well as to onboard users, that all that data is again protected and secured by the overall Cisco trust. And it's one thing for us to talk about it, and you know, and we may not be the security experts, but the National Security Administration certainly are experts, and they did their own evaluation of various collaboration providers, and they found Webex to be the most secure vis-a-vis our competitors. So you don't necessarily have to trust us; you can probably trust the NSA. And with that, I think we're done with the feature conversation. Shilpi, to go back to you.
Yep. Thank you, Phil, and thank you all for sticking around and engaging with us via the polls. I know we covered a lot today, but hopefully you had a good time learning more about the SMB insights and also how the new Webex is enabling those remote and mobile work experiences that Phil walked us through. We hope you enjoyed this webinar and found it useful. Thank you again for being with us. Over to you, Christy, for the closing.
Great. Thank you, both of you. What a great presentation. And with that, we're going to close up. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.